Mike, when did you have a solid indication that Darnold would not be the top pick?
I think it's you go into every draft, and I said this. I said this a couple times in like some of the pre-draft pressers, that you never really that you always prepare for the draft because you never really know what happens or what will happen, and of course you just have to be ready for whatever situation presents itself. I would say this: thinking back to when Leo came out, I know there was about a week out or so, maybe 3-4 days out, we started hearing different names coming up, like Leo may actually slide based on how the draft was kind of projected to fall out. This year in particular, I think it was funny, like early out, you kept on hearing different names popping up. That's sort of a natural thing that happens with the draft. As we got closer to it, I think we started hearing probably more like today that he may be not the first pick taken. Of course, then you don't know what's going to happen number 2. And we just sort of sat tight and kind of waited to see how it unfolded, and felt very happy that Sam was there and we had a chance to pick him.
Mike, when you made the trade, where does this fall in terms of the way you were hoping it was going to fall, just as things unfold in the first 3 picks?
Yeah, I think going into the draft, and early on, we felt pretty. I mean, we've done a lot of work on these guys, not just Sam, but a lot of the quarterbacks in this draft and a lot of the players in this draft. But I think early on we actually decided to make the move right after we went through free agency. We had a pretty good feeling there was going to be some good players potentially there for us. Sam was one of them. But early on, I think the early projections had Sam kind of going 1, and we thought maybe if that's how it fell line with it. But we thought that we still have some really good players we felt very strongly about available for us at 3. And then as it sort of unfolded, the fact that Sam, who we really liked quite, through this whole process, we're very consistent in how we felt about him. When it looked like we had a chance to slide to us, we were pretty excited to take him.
I know there's a lot of people have questions. Did you narrow it down to like 2 guys, 2 quarterbacks, so to speak, that when you made that pick? I mean, if you give up that much, you're obviously targeting somebody.
I would say simply, we felt very good about, again, if we moved to 3, we felt very good about 3 players of that pick. So we never felt we had to cross our fingers and hope 2 of the 3 would actually be there. But we actually felt very strong that there would be 3 players that we felt on our board at that point in time. And of course, that was right around the time of free agency. So when you're kind of hitting the pro days, you're going out there and seeing some guys, and we felt good about and said, okay, if we move up, we know we're going to get. There's a pecking order, obviously, but we felt very good about having 3 guys on the board available for us to pick from.
Mike, what do you like about Sam Darnold?
I like his competitiveness. Obviously, all the quarterbacks that compete, but the biggest thing that you really don't see, he has an inner desire and drive that brings out the competitiveness in the other players. And once you get to know Sam and we spent some time around him, everything, his personality really came out. And along with that drive and obviously his accuracy, we really like that about him.
When you trade up to pick a guy, Mike, at 3, you're thinking, that you pick a guy there at quarterback because you hope he can be your franchise quarterback for 10 years to come. Yes. Why do you think Sam Darnold can be that for this franchise?
Well, first he's, as a player, we like him from an ability standpoint. And, he obviously played at a high level in terms of college. He got thrust into playing very early on. There's lots of people. We did a lot of research on him in terms of, his personality, character, intangible stuff, which we felt very good about. And then, of course, combine that with the player. And, of course, he's younger. He's literally just about to turn. I think when we actually had him out for our team dinner, for the for the visit, we had him for dinner. And, of course, maybe 1 or 2 of us ordered a cocktail. And, of course, Sam's not legal, so we were joking around with him a little bit. But he's very young. We feel he has a very, very bright future. And really, when you sort of put the whole thing together with quarterbacks, you obviously, from an ability standpoint, you analyze them from a character standpoint, and then you sort of see what you think they can grow into. And we felt very good about Sam from that standpoint.
When you mentioned how young he is, from his ability standpoint, how close is he? I guess this is for you too, Todd. How close is he, do you think, to being able to play? Is he more on the pro-ready side, or is he more on the developmental side?
I would say, again, it will play itself out here over time. I'll let Todd talk about that because Todd obviously determines when these guys play. But our focus really with, for example, with any quarterback we evaluated was not just the player he's going to be initially, but the player we think he can develop into. Our goal is obviously, from an ability and potential standpoint, to help him fulfill that. So we think he has a very high ceiling, and again, that'll play itself out here over the spring. And of course, Todd, I think, can probably talk more to more detail upon that.
Well, we're probably going to get him in. Once we get him in, he starts the playbook. There's no timetable. We got to see how fast he learns and how fast he grasps everything, and then get some experience. We're not going to throw him in there, but at the same time, we're not going to hold him back either. I think we have a good room with the quarterback situation. So once we get him in and he starts the playbook and getting used to the system and everything, we'll go from there.
Todd, how concerned are you about his?
How much of that last visit you had with him kind of say, if he's available, this is my guy? Did that help you at all or no?
I think every time you get more exposure to the players, and the 30 visit you stay with them. But I don't know if I would say there's any one thing that sort of solidified it. It was sort of a combination of our complete exposure, and really, I probably should stop and mention, like, there's some people involved in this process, and not just, obviously Todd and myself, but Brian Heimerdinger, Matt Bazigan, all college scouts, Jeremy Bates, all our coaches that were involved in this process. I mean, there's so many, and then the trainers and literally the director of security, strength coaches. Like, we're so thorough in terms of the amount of stuff sort of information we gather on these guys. There's so many of these guys, like in our process, there was just a lot of really positive things. So the culmination of actually meeting the player and spending time with them, to a certain degree, it sort of reconfirms what we already know about them. But again, you're dealing with a very young person, but you come away quite impressed with them from a maturity standpoint.
Todd, how does concern you were his turnovers last year? 22 turnovers. He is a developing player. So just from your perspective, what do you make of that high rate of turnover?
I would say, like with all players, I mean, we analyzed that a little bit. Even talking with Sam, and some of the fumble stuff, there's obviously things you can work on with that. And this year in particular, watching him play, there's areas that we think he can improve upon. But we also think he does some really things exceptionally well. But that'll be, again, as Todd and coaches work with him, we'll kind of focus on that. But I think there's definitely areas where, like any player coming in, there's going to be things they need to improve upon. And I think with him in particular, there's areas we feel good about our ability to kind of correct and move forward with.
No different. Obviously, you don't want turnovers on any level, but we think his upside and his ability far outweighs the turnovers, and sometimes trying to do too much, sometimes trying to make the wrong reads, and things he can learn from and getting to know him. We think those things can be corrected, and I know just talking with him personally, those things can be corrected, and something he wants to do that he'll work on, and we'll work on with him, that we can overcome that. So we didn't feel too bad about that.
Like, coming off of the Penn State game, his redshirt freshman year in the Rose Bowl, there was so much hype around Sam and so large expectations heading into the season. He didn't really live up to those expectations, maybe. What did you see when you studied his season last year that maybe, his redshirt sophomore season wasn't as impressive as that redshirt freshman?
Yeah, and even with talking with the player a little bit, I mean, you go through that whole process where you evaluate them. Every player's going to have good and bad games. And sometimes when you go back and analyze, I think really the first thing we initially thought was when you watched him in the Penn State game, for example, there was probably much stronger senior class for that group of players. When you watch him the more recent season, or this past season, you watch him in terms of trying to make plays and trying to make things happen. In some cases, like I probably saw him play 5 times this year live, and in some of those games you watch him like really sort of make some of the players around him better, I thought. But like there's a lot of things, like every young player, there's things he still has to improve upon, and but there's definitely some really positive things in terms of when you watch Sam and kind of his decision-making ability, his playoff schedule. He played under duress at times this year because he's, again, playing with a little bit of a younger offensive line. But when you sort of put all those pieces together and you see what he, take the good and the bad, there's definitely a lot of really positive things we feel very good about in terms of his upside and potential.
What does this mean for Christian Hackenberg?
Well, right now we're still focused on the draft, so this will all play itself out over time here, and we'll, again, we'll make those decisions. I'm not going to speculate on any particular player right now, but we're going to obviously have some good young quarterbacks. We have some good veteran quarterbacks. We'll see how this all comes together.
Mike, is Darnold your number one quarterback on your board?
I don't really want to get into where we had guys ranked, but we were very excited when he was available for us at 3.
Was there any hesitation there when he was there? Was it immediate, he's our guy, we're going?
There are some other really good players in this draft we did quite a bit of work on. There's always a bit of a pause, but we felt very good about the player at this pick.
Take a couple more.
Is there an opportunity to move up at all? I mean, you're very high. Was there any talks about moving up any higher than what you were?
I think this year in particular, we felt really good at 3. I've sort of said this all along. Like, we actually made the trade going back a ways, we felt really good, like, okay, this was going to be something we thought we'd go a little ahead of the curve with. I think sometimes when you get on the clock or near the clock or close to the draft, sometimes there's more suitors for the pick, so you sometimes we have to pay a little more of a premium. We paid a good price to move to 3, but we felt very good about it. If it gave us a chance to get one of the players we liked in the draft, and again, the way it worked out, we felt very good about Sam being there for us.
Todd, did you or Jeremy have any concerns about his motion? His throw motion's a little elongated.
No, we don't. We think his motion's fine. He can get the ball out quick when he wants to. He can change his arm motion a little bit here and there, but we're fine with his motion.
Like, just for clarification, did you guys have a private workout with him, and if not, why not?
For clarification, I think most of you guys, have heard a lot of kind of who we worked out. We actually had a private workout with Sam. So we worked him out probably about a week before we brought him in for a visit.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.